Down to My Elbow, written by Tasmin Jahan. Early morning. Anne and Raymond, a married couple in their 60s, are seated at their kitchen table having breakfast. With unease, Raymond is carefully examining a piece of paper. With enthusiasm, Anne watches him.
Is this cabbage butter just divine on toast? Smells and feels like Vermont every time I take a bite. So glad I bought it.
I don't like the look of this shopping list.
Your skin is glowing this morning. Have you started using that new seaweed and sea salt facial wash I bought for you the other day?
What seaweed and sea salt facial wash?
Never mind. Aren't you going to finish your toast?
Anne, this is a horribly distressing shopping list.
Why?
This shopping list is going down to my elbow, and none of these items are for me.
You have short arms. I noticed that when we were dating over 20 years ago. I thought it was quite endearing.
I know where my elbows are, thank you very much.
It's only a few items.
But do I have to buy all of these items for you today?
Yes, that's why they're on the list. You should be grateful that I stopped at item number 16.
It's been quite an expensive month for us already. On top of the usual bills, we had to pay for a new dining room ceiling and new roof. Thank goodness I was at the office going through our new product line catalog. Your choice of chandelier caused a short circuit and then blew up the dining room ceiling and then the roof as well, remember? Had I not left for the office for that early meeting, that ceiling would have been on top of me.
And I am very thankful for the new ceiling and the new ceramic tile roof. I'm so pleased the terracotta roof tiles match with my new car. It's as if it were meant to be.
I'm not going to buy this organic yogurt.
Why not?
It's too expensive.
It's delicious. You should try it.
And I'm not going to buy this dark chocolate vanilla cake.
That cake is absolutely delightful. I've lost 4 pounds since I started having that cake.
I thought you had borderline diabetes.
I'm pre-diabetic. There's a difference. It's just a scare tactic to make you give up cake. I'm not falling for that trick.
That actually means you need to be careful with your diet and not stuff your face with cake.
Oh, Raymond, pre-diabetic simply means I can still indulge without feeling any guilt.
But I'm an insulin-dependent diabetic.
I know, and you're very good at it. You've got that charming diabetic glow.
I can't indulge like you do. My doctor said my most recent blood sugar readings were unusually high compared to last month's readings. He said I need to take firm action to improve my readings, otherwise I'll need to take more medication.
I only gave you 2 slices of cake. No need to overreact.
Sweetheart, it's really not about the cake.
But I wrote that shopping list knowing that I was married to a very handsome and successful businessman.
That's so nice of you. But I fail to see the point.
Your doctor did not write that amazing shopping list. I did. Therefore, your doctor's professional medical advice is irrelevant.
When you eat that dark chocolate vanilla cake in front of me, it makes my mouth water.
What about the cakes in the diabetic section then?
Well, they're not cakes.
That's what it says on the packaging.
Those cakes taste like rubber.
I've never tasted rubber before. What's it like?
It's disgusting. I felt like I was chewing it forever.
I feel sorry for you. Perhaps I should have a word with your doctor.
You don't feel sorry for me. You're too busy spending my money.
Excuse me. What did you say?
I meant to say our money. Sorry.
No, I've cut down on my spending sprees. That is how much I love you.
And did you remember to return that hideous designer pink and green floral print dress?
I was going to, but then I saw this other gorgeous dress in the window. So I had to.
All right, that's it. I need a pen. I'm going to cross out a few more items.
That's not fair. It's my list.
I'm going to start with the organic yogurt and then the dark chocolate vanilla cake.
Raymond, you're giving me palpitations by doing that.
As you expect me to take time out to buy your items, I am in charge of the final list.
Before writing this shopping list, you did not make your position very clear about it. Therefore, this shopping list falls.
I'm going to appeal.
Motion denied. If you strike almost everything off this list, there will be consequences.
What consequences?
Dinner will be cancelled.
What?
And I won't do your laundry.
Fine. I'll just wear your clothes and eat out with Dexter.
I'm confused. You said you were going to meet Dexter for lunch today, and on the way back home, you promised to pick up a few items for me.
I was just being a polite and dutiful husband by offering. I was really hoping you would say, "No, sweetheart, I don't need anything." But instead, you've written this horribly distressing shopping list.
Please stop saying that.
I'm going to cross out nectarines.
Don't take it out on the nectarines.
You've listed nectarines underneath peaches.
So what?
Peach and nectarine are the same, if you think about it.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
I like peaches and I like nectarines, so they will both stay on the list.
You must choose one or the other, not both.
Choose fairness. I choose both. You cannot neglect the nectarines. The peaches will be devastated.
And I'm not going to buy the organic bread or the organic black-tail free-range eggs either.
Stop being so vicious.
I will aim to buy ordinary bread and ordinary eggs.
What have you got against the organic food industry?
I think the price is a bit of a con.
But you've been eating organic bread and organic eggs for many months now. I've always prepared our breakfast this way.
I hadn't realized. I think we need to make a few changes then.
Organic is better for you. It's better for the gut.
All of a sudden, I don't feel so good. I think my blood pressure is rising and my stomach feels a little bloated.
Perhaps you're having a hot flush. It can happen to some penny pinching husbands, you know.
The stress of this shopping list is causing my blood pressure to rise, and this rich butter on this toast is probably irritating the lining of my stomach.
If you really love me.
I call Dexter and reschedule.
You might as well tell him that you have an allergy to your wife's shopping list, and as a result, it has restricted your mobility, caused your blood pressure to rise, and has given you a bloated stomach. Talk about drama queen.
Well, that's exactly what I'm planning to say to him.
Deep down, I know that you're testing my patience here, but naturally, I forgive you. I know you're still going to meet up with Dexter anyway.
Dexter warned me about this.
About what?
You're trying to control me again, aren't you?
I'm just being a very honest and understanding wife to an insulin-dependent diabetic who has an allergy to my shopping list.
Anne, we really need to cut down.
Raymond, the fact is, because of me, you have this wonderfully exciting and happy marriage. You should be thrilled that I've written such a great shopping list for you. The items clearly represent good taste.
I am very disappointed that you haven't listened to me at all.
You are welcome, my sweetheart.
What?
Remember our wedding day? You promised you would pay for everything, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
Did I? I honestly don't remember that part.
Oh, before I forget, could you please buy some of that Swiss cheese for me as well?
End of play. Well done. Well done. That was great.
Thank you, Desmond.
Thank you, Miss Bell.
That was so funny. I was just laughing out loud.
Yeah, I was laughing my way through it.
Hilarious. Oh my God. So well done.
Yes.
Good.
You did great chemistry.
Chapter 1, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. 1881, exterior London, England, Market Street, midday. An uncomfortable melting pot in the middle of class-conscious Victorian society. Narrow cobblestone street at the height of the business day, thick with pedestrians, through which Hans Dipper, exaggerated features, garish topcoat, oversized hat, brazenly pickpockets insignificant baubles from the crowd, including John Watson, an unusually swarthy young gentleman, prematurely withered by the physical and emotional scars of war, peruses the London Times Classified. Frustrated sigh. An editorial page article elicits his skeptical harumph.
Rump.
Dipper reacts, eyes light up a moment, bumps into Watson. Reacts, startled, angry, then quickly timid. Dipper mumbles an apology and stumbles off through the crowd. In Dipper's hand, Watson's gold watch, a well-worn heirloom. In his other hand, a small sharp blade glistens. Dipper smiles, focuses on his real target. Fashionably attired, Colonel Sebastian Moran ignores shouting vendors, warily navigates the bustling crowd, protects a black silk bag tied to his belt under a long waistcoat. Dipper trips a fruit vendor. Fruit spills under the crowd. Vendor reacts. Angry tussle with Dipper. Collide into Moran. Under Moran's coat, Dipper's blade frees the silk bag. Offstage, policeman's whistle. Dipper and Moran react. Separately, escape into the crowd. Exterior around the corner. Moran pauses, bent over to catch his breath. Discovers the silk bag is missing. Reacts. Fiery eyes, looks up, sees across the street Dipper's hat visible above the crowd. Disappears into an alley. Moran growls. pushes aside pedestrians into exterior alley off Market Street. Moran huffs and puffs, finds a figure in the shadows, squats under Dipper's large brim hat. Moran snatches away the hat, reveals
Thief!
Sheila, the hag. A wart-nosed old prostitute grins through rotted teeth, flaunts her grubby cleavage.
Hello, dearie. Looking for a bit of fun?
Moran reacts, revulsion. Ugh. Panics, backs away and off. Sheila reacts, throaty laugh. Off her sly grin to a hint of Dipper's top coat under her grayish petticoat. Exterior Market Street. Moran searches the crowd for Dipper, frustrated grumble. Beyond Moran, Sheila exits the alley, ignored by the crowd. Rotted dentures spit into her hand, false nose and teeth tucked into a modest bosom. Hag wig replaced with flowing blonde hair. Her mannish face sparkles with youthful zest. Considers, insert in Sheila's hand Watson's watch, scuffed and old, monogram in fancy engraving, J.H.W. Resume scene. Sheila reacts, satisfied smile. Through crowd, bumps into Watson. Reacts off guard, shyly attracted. Sheila slips the watch back into Watson's coat pocket.
Begging your pardon, sir.
Sheila smiles. Watson reacts speechless. Polite mumble. Distracted. Watson sees. Sheila backs through the crowd, shortcuts into exterior service alley. Sheila reacts, surprised to find her path cut off by an elegant shadow in top hat and cloak, fiery red eyes. A soft, cultured voice belies his menace.
You have something not yours.
Shadow Jack twists a gargoyle-headed cane. A glistening sword point pops out. Sheila's adept martial arts skills surprise Shadow Jack. Brief, faster than the eye combat. Jack's blade slashes Sheila's right forearm. Sheila reacts. Pain. Misses a beat, loses the advantage.
Unhand the lady!
Shadow Jack reacts, surprised by Watson, enters the alley. Sheila takes advantage, a kick and a punch. Jack doubles over. Watson crosses between Jack and Sheila escapes through the alley. Jack roars, knocks Watson for a loop. Urgh. Cane sword drips blood over Watson, kicks Jack into the shadows. Jack vanishes as quickly as he appeared. Watson reacts, perplexed. A half beat, quickly pursues exterior alley exit. Sheila crosses the street against traffic and off. Watson appears shortly behind, follows her into exterior Baker Street, afternoon. Sheila exits into a modest brownstone building. Watson huffs and puffs, in time to see, behind a second-floor window, a shadow draws the curtain. Exterior brownstone, closer. Watson examines the address, finds the name posted on the mail slot. 221B S. Holmes. Interior, 221B Baker Street, Sherlock's suite, subjective. At a dresser mirror, treats a bloody forearm, crude and quick, swiftly hidden under a man's elegant dressing gown. When off stage voices, Watson and an older woman, angry commotion rushes up the stairs. Watson bursts in, practically falls over. Matronly landlady, Mrs. Hudson, hot on his heels. Discover.
I told you, sir. Begging your pardon, Mr. Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes tightly closes his dressing gown, trim and boyish, with a lifetime of experience reflected in steely eyes that can stop you cold in a single glance.
I told the gentleman you were not to be disturbed.
Quite right, Mrs. Hudson. Quite all right.
Watson separates himself, crosses into the sitting room, slyly glances through open doors into an adjacent bedroom and den. Watson's posture stiffens with military precision.
I seek a lady.
Mrs. Hudson regains her dignity, exits. An indignant and nasty look to Watson, who continues scanning the apartment.
In need of medical attention.
Sherlock turns back to the mirror, drops a scarf over Sheila's blonde wig upon the bust of Homer. Sherlock raises an eyebrow.
You're a doctor.
Watson's brave image weakens, nervous, embarrassing secrets, absently pats a pocket. Corner of a pawn ticket is visible.
I am without practice at the moment.
Sherlock studies Watson's reflection in the dresser mirror. Watson's dark brow perspires, dries it with a handkerchief. Watson's face and hand are darkly baked, except where his coat sleeve pulls back, reveals a lily white tan line. Sherlock imagines Watson's reflection in military uniform.
I see. You served your queen in Afghanistan.
What? How did you...
Sherlock half faces Watson, eyes sparkle.
Elementary.
Sherlock's half smile conceals more than it reveals. Turns back to the mirror. Sherlock sees Watson's left arm hangs stiffly. Left hand gently twitches. Sherlock imagines a rifle bullet through Watson's left arm, explosion of blood and flesh and shattered bone and severed nerve.
I saw a bit of action in my one.
A bit too much action.
Watson's left hand reacts, positively convulsive.
See here.
You are in need of fresh lodgings.
Watson reacts surprised, follows Sherlock's gaze to the Times under Watson's arm. To let notices circled in the classified section.
Yes, I am afraid I'd rather forgot the time. It may be too late.
Watson reaches for his watch, finds the pocket empty. A beat. Surprised to find it in the opposite pocket. Awkwardly retrieved with his good arm. Sherlock reacts. Oops. A rare mistake. Watson reacts, a half beat. Reserves his questions for later.
In my profession, I may have some use for a companion with a modicum of medical knowledge.
Your profession?
And no questions.
Frustrated exhale. Beyond the window curtain, Sherlock sees, insert exterior Baker Street, a shadowy figure, Angus Springer, paces uncertainly. Resume interior Sherlock's suite. Sherlock ushers Watson out into the hallway, intentionally knocks Watson's newspaper to the floor. Distraction from Sherlock's fingers in Watson's pocket.
Mustn't keep you any further, my good man. You're already late for your appointment, and my client is unlikely to appear in the presence of strangers.
Ah, yes, if you have need.
I will know where to find you. James.
John.
Of course. Much stronger.
John Watson.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock picks up the Times, turned to the editorial page.
I trust you found this morning's editorial of some amusement, abridged, of course, from a much longer monograph.
I am a doctor. The observation of detail is crucial in any successful diagnosis.
Sherlock reacts, a satisfied smile.
This man's theories are intriguing, but his conclusions...
It is an extract.
It is rubbish.
I wrote it.
Sherlock's infamous half-smile. Watson reacts, speechless, cut off when Sherlock closes the door, shuts Watson out. Sherlock leans against the door, contemplative laugh. Watson's pawn ticket in Sherlock's hand. Exterior, 221B Baker Street. Watson stumbles down the brownstone, uncertain, circles once or twice. Exits past Angus Springer, a mole-ish criminal figure, uncomfortable in the light. Mumbles to himself. Against his better judgment, exits into interior Sherlock's suite. Sherlock quickly arranges things. Moran's silk bag prominent upon the center table. Sherlock assumes his position between the mirror and window. Offstage, a less than pleasant exchange between Mrs. Hudson and Angus's surly rasp. An impertinent knock on the door.
Come in, Mrs. Hudson.
I must say, these visitors of yours.
The park looks quite pleasant this afternoon. For a stroll and a tea?
Mrs. Hudson chokes back her feelings, a wary eye to Angus.
Of course, as you say, Mr. Holmes.
I was told to come.
This bag is yours.
What's in her?
As I said, the bag is yours.
What's in her?
Evidence meant to frame your brother, Jack.
Who would?
A rival.
Oh, aye.
You may use it to prove his innocence.
Ah. Aren't you the clever one? What do you want for her?
I want no further business with you, Angus Springer, or your brother. Make no mistake, I shall gladly dedicate every resource at my disposal and march both of you up to the gallows personally for the crimes of which you are guilty. But I would never see any man, however scurvy, wrongly convicted, so that the true villain might roam free.
As you say. Still, if ever you'll be needing anything...
I shall bear that in mind and dread the day.
A long silence. Neither man makes effort to communicate. Finally, Angus grunts, takes Moran's bag, uncertain, exits. A beat. Sherlock reacts. Relieved sigh, groan of anguish. Sherlock quickly crosses to the dresser, undoes his gown. His bloodied arm throbs. Exterior, several blocks away, dusk. An old two-flat building. To let sign in the narrow window. Watson consults his watch. Past 6 o'clock. Crosses to a drab-looking landlord behind the window. Removes the sign and draws the shade. Watson reacts, frustrated sigh. Crosses off the advert in the Times. Turns to exterior, Watson's point of view. On the editorial page, Sherlock's article. The Book of Life, Observation and Deduction by Sherlock Holmes. A long beat. The newspaper lowers to reveal exterior 221B Baker Street, night. A lonely figure. Watson watches Sherlock's lit window.
I find myself drawn into a mystery. I am in no condition for mysteries, and yet...
Exterior, Market Street, night. In a narrow recess between shops, Watson huddles against the cold night air, discarded fruit crates for a bed.
The mind will not rest until I have unravelled the puzzle that is Sherlock Holmes.
Interior, Sherlock's suite, night. Sherlock crudely stitches his wound best he can left-handed. Off the wound to Sherlock's reflection in the mirror. Sherlock grimaces, refuses to surrender to the pain, coldly analyzes his image. Dressing gown, down to the waist, body lean and strong, supple contours unmistakable, reveal the naked truth. Sheila Lockhart, the young woman who would be Sherlock Holmes.
Throw Me Out by Rex McGregor. The setting is a casino at night. Deborah is playing a slot machine.
Deborah, it's 3:21. Time to call it a night. You asked for a cooling off period. I'm here to enforce it. Right. I'll document this attempt. Expect further interventions.
Is that it?
You've exhausted my arsenal.
Sniff the air. Can you identify the fragrance?
Same as usual.
A blend of jasmine, vanilla, lily, and tuberose, cunningly calibrated to make me linger.
To create a pleasant environment.
In a study at the Hilton, slot players spent 45.1% more in a scented area.
You've done your homework.
It's an aromatherapist's duty to keep tabs on professional malpractice.
If you're so anti, why stay?
I'm hooked. This place bombards me with enticements. I can't resist.
We can provide a wide arrangement of resources from the Nevada Council on Problem Gambling, Las Vegas Area Gamblers Anonymous, the International Center for Responsible Gaming.
Can you grab me by the scruff of the neck and throw me out?
Of course not.
I would, if I had the willpower and the agility.
We can only evict you if you threaten to hurt someone or yourself.
My addiction is destroying my life. Surely that qualifies as self-harm.
Sorry, doesn't meet the threshold.
So what do I have to do, Lane? Stamp on your foot?
Try verbal abuse. Call me a few choice names. I won't mind.
That's very kind of you. But unfortunately, I've had an impeccable education.
Damn.
The nuns even frowned on drat.
It's a shame they didn't ban obsessive compulsive behavior.
Well, they could hardly do that. Passionate devotion was their thing.
And now it's yours.
Nonsense. I'm nothing like them.
They obviously wielded more influence than you realize.
Not anymore. I'm going cold turkey.
Good for you. Just walk away.
Will you lend me a hand?
Absolutely. We always escort a customer who requests assistance.
No, I'm not talking about physical support. I need an accomplice.
A what?
There's only one way that I can break free. Let's shut the casino down.
Be serious.
At home, I saw the solution with crystal clarity. I've come forearmed.
I hope you're talking about an extra pair of limbs.
No. A weapon.
Are you crazy?
Well, whoever's in charge of this security, who's ever in charge of security here must be. Anyone can walk in with an automatic rifle.
Your bag's too small.
I was being hypothetical. I detest guns.
You said you have a weapon.
Not a gun, a device.
A bomb?
A device with an olfactory effect.
A stink bomb?
Ugh, I loathe that term. It's so vulgar.
Deborah, People have set off stink bombs in casinos before. They never cause closures.
I know. The most they've achieved is a temporary partial evacuation.
Well then,
They're amateurs, using ammonium sulfide of all things.
the stuff that smells like rotten eggs?
A pathetic whiff. My stench is far more sophisticated.
How do you mean?
Inescapable, irrepressible, fast-spreading, long-lasting pungency with a punch.
Worse than farts?
Ugh, it makes the most nauseating flatulence smell like Chanel number 5.
Deborah, your scheme is plain wrong. What would your teachers think?
They'd applaud my missionary zeal. I'm fighting 3 sins: greed, envy, and sloth.
What about work ethics? Perfume makers must have a code of conduct.
Our goal is to enhance people's lives. Stopping them from gambling fits the bill.
You haven't thought this through. Suppose you do make the casino uninhabitable. There are plenty of others within a few minutes' walk to tempt you.
I know. This is just stage 1. We'll have to shut down the whole strip.
We?
Some players may have respiratory problems or heart conditions. I need you to make an announcement over the public address system warning them to go outside.
You've completely lost your mind.
Don't you have access to a microphone?
For emergencies only.
Oh, trust me, your nose will call this the mother of all disasters.
You're making a threat? I'll call security.
Do that, and I will release the smell this minute. Or make the announcement, and I'll give people with health issues time to leave the building.
That's unfair pressure.
I'm offering you a chance to be a heroine, protecting the vulnerable.
Sorry, I'd lose my job.
Well, I'm making a much greater sacrifice. Shutting down the strip means I'll lose a fortune.
Huh?
I've discovered an infallible gambling system. It can make billions.
Baloney.
But I'm willing to give it all up for the sake of kicking the habit.
No system can beat the odds in the long run.
Mine can.
If you try card counting at blackjack, we'll catch you out.
My method is far simpler, and success is guaranteed.
Impossible.
Would you like to bet?
Staff here isn't allowed to gamble while on duty.
Really? How wonderful. If I had known that, I would have applied for a job.
It's a smarter strategy than your other idea.
How do the bosses stop you from playing?
They supervise us.
How useless. I'm already being monitored.
If we break the rules, we get fired.
And banned from the casino forever?
No, just fired.
Ugh. So I'd be back where I started. A slave to the slots. I'll stick to my stench plan.
Deborah.
If you can't bet money, Lane, stake your confidence instead.
What are you talking about now?
You seem quite certain that my system is flawed.
Because it is.
If I prove it will actually work, will you make the announcement as I asked?
I never gamble.
Oh, you lucky thing. I hate corrupting you, but I have no other card to play.
You can stop your ridiculous talk right now.
You can stop the stench. If I don't prove my system works, I'll abandon the whole plot.
Honest?
I promise.
Let's be clear. To win, you have to convince me your system works.
Agreed. And you'll stick to your side of the bargain? Make the announcement if you lose?
Fine. Since there's no chance of that, fire away.
I can explain my system in 3 words. Be the house.
Hang on.
The house always wins. So own a casino, success guaranteed.
Most people don't have that sort of money.
That's irrelevant. All I had to prove is the infallibility of my system, which I've done.
Using a sneaky trick.
Casino owners tip the scales in their favor all the time. Hardly surprising. They're nearly all men. When we shut down their business, we'll be striking a blow against the patriarchy.
You're going to hold this against me, aren't you?
You'll hold yourself to it, Lane. Off you go.
I hope one day I'll forgive us both.
Watch this spunky gal with the guts. Kick those fancy pants in the nuts. Nothing can make this dame tame. I'll keep whooping their butts. And it's high time. Yes, it's high time. This is my win and my way and my time. Give my aroma a framed diploma for excellence in the field. Watch Sin City soulless parasites yield.
Attention, please. We've received credible notification that a super stink bomb will attack the casino a few minutes from now. If you're sensitive to foul odors, please exit the premises immediately. Those who choose to remain do so at their own risk. We take no responsibility for any vomiting, expulsion of other bodily substances, or soiled clothing.
I've got a partner in crime. Now all I have to do is invent a smell that will live up to my description.
End of play.
Not Left Behind by Zev Johnston. Scene 1.
I've had to recite the Kaddish 3 times this week.
She pulls chocolate chip cookies out of the oven. Ash regards her a little uneasily. Avra Kadisha is supposed to be anonymous.
Oh, no, it was davening while I was, just with a sitter.
Like synagogue?
Yes, there's online. Places that do it in a group. I guess I didn't have to. I chose to. But I didn't like having to do it for multiple. I didn't like so much death.
I memorized the Kaddish.
Kaddish.
They both eat several delicious cookies to comfort themselves.
I'm not a religious Jew. That's always been your thing, not mine. I didn't mean to memorize the Kaddish.
Was someone giving you a hassle until you did?
Nothing like that. Is that a thing?
Jews don't proselytize. We don't force others to pray either.
We're from the same family. We're both Jewish.
Religious Jews do not force others to convert, to pray, or to get married. It's the ultra-Orthodox Jews. They're a tiny minority who has managed to convince society otherwise.
Thanks for the reminder.
It's hard to have death be so present, huh?
Says the Death Shomer.
How did you find that out, by the way?
Oh, I was in town for a conference and went for a walk outside the hotel. I saw that, well, you walked out. It was the Livingston's house.
That was 4 years ago. Fuck.
Your secret's safe with me. I know it's totally anonymous and unpaid. I don't want you to get kicked out. Anyway, I'm not part of the Jewish community, really.
Well, I mean, Okay.
So does being a shaman help you not be so sad when someone dies?
That is not it. That is not it at all.
It's sacred, right? Is that why you do it? So you'll get into heaven?
I don't believe in heaven or hell. A lot of Jews don't. You really are assimilated.
Fuck you too.
I wasn't trying to be insulting. I performed Shemira because in Judaism, people don't realize they're dead at first, or they don't believe it, and their souls wander as a result. The wandering isn't peaceful. Bad things do happen. I sit with their body and pray so they're not alone.
That's wonderful.
And I'm kind of selfish.
Yeah, doing it anonymously and unpaid in spite of families willing to pay you and thank you is totally selfish.
It's standard to refuse payment or acknowledgement.
Okay then.
No one is going to perform Shemira for me. I do it for others because I don't want wandering to be common.
How do you know nobody's going to do it for you?
These are people who couldn't be bothered to do a single Shiva call when death hit our family that year. They had 3 separate chances.
They each died before the Jewish holidays. There's restrictions on grieving then.
Whatever.
They reflect on that sad year.
You're right. It's hard to have death so present. People are just gonna keep dying. How can you be okay with that?
I'm not. I don't know. It's more than that.
I get really paranoid sometimes. I guess we just keep going in life. I got your email describing Aunt Mimi's 1-year memorial. That was really touching. I'm so sorry Malcolm and I couldn't attend.
Nora hugs Ash.
You say anything to Cousin Joy?
Why?
They snicker and are shocked at themselves.
You couldn't get 2 people less alike, or a parent or child who adored each other more.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind.
Oh my God, are you serious? I am standing right here, man.
We are so inappropriate.
Aunt Mimi started that joke.
And she genuinely wanted that Monty Python song, the Right Side of Death one, played at her funeral.
I was so offended and annoyed, but everyone was whistling along, so I tried to chill. You'd never believe that happened unless you met our family.
People were whistling and they laughed at the end. It helped. We finished half the cookies.
We're good at that. Remember when we were teenagers?
Ash puts the rest of the cookies aside. Nora pulls liquor out of the cabinet and mixes a baby Guinness for each of them. Family tradition dictates mixing the dead person's favorite alcoholic drink.
To Aunt Mimi.
To Aunt Mimi. We miss you, hon.
They finish their drinks all in one go.
May her memory be a blessing.
The 2 siblings refill their drinks several times.
You know what? Cousin Joy's favorite drink is Fireball, especially with eggnog.
Chugs it down starting every December 1st on her birthday.
And you know what that means?
She's gonna celebrate Christmas?
What the fuck? No. Oh, we're so drunk. No, she has to die in winter so we can properly make her drink.
You think she's gonna soak her dentures in Fireball when she's old?
Did you hear me?
Yes. You know how I don't drive? This means when I get dementia, no one's gonna take any car keys away from me.
Ash laughs horrified because it's probably true.
Jesus Christ.
Wrong religion.
She wobbles to the sink to get water for them both.
You're limiting my booze? You're a buzzkill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want to watch that?
Yes.
I brought it with me.
They put on one of their family's favorite movies.
You know, I love you. And I love mutual sibling drunkenness.
I love you too.
End of play. I'm applauding the actors, not myself. That was wonderful. It worked.
Glad you're happy.
Well, our conversation can begin with the first one, down to my elbow. Did Michelle stay with us? Yes, she did. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Hanging in there, but I think I'm headed toward my bedroom.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll go quickly then.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, it worked
Very funny.
Worked really well. Yeah.
So-
Consistency of marriage. Just a simple
So-
thing, just a shopping list. But then the whole
Jasmine.
life is before you.
Is the phrase "down to my elbow" an English phrase?
No, I completely made that up.
Oh. So it's down. So it's starting at the head and goes down to the elbow.
Yeah, down to it because he's holding this list and it's going down to his elbow.
Oh, okay. I was wondering which direction he was going in.
And she stopped at number 16. But the manipulation, the wife trying so hard to penetrate that sort of strict exterior there, where he is wanting his money from her, and he makes the mistake of saying, you're spending my money, and her reaction is, what?
Absolutely. That has come up a couple of times in my relationship.
But so well done, actors, well done. It was brilliantly executed.
I like the line, thankful for the new ceiling.
There were so many hilarious lines. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yes, well done as always by all.
Yeah, particularly
taking something trivia and then making it so big. Made it hilarious.
Particularly don't take it out on the nectarines.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
They take it out on the nectarines because the
peaches will be devastated. That was my favorite.
There was so many things that were it was like a Neil Simon.
Yeah.
bit. And at the same time, it was Lucy Ball going through all of her wheedling, crying, all the techniques she tried to get Ricky to do something updated, colliding with Tasman's unique approach. and Tasman didn't tell us to do it in Cockney. We just asked her,
Yeah, let's do it that way, and it worked well. It worked well because they're nouveau riche.
The nouveau riche.
Yeah, they're nouveau riche people.
And at first I thought Michelle's character was plotting against her husband, trying to feed him all those sweets and kill him off because of his diabetes.
Yes, he said he was a diabetic. And I think I know I wrote this, but the line of where he's got this great diabetic look.
Yeah.
This diabetic glow.
Yeah.
Diabetic glow. Yes.
Whatever that is.
Yes. Read so many scripts. Oh my God. But yeah.
I think it's when you're about to go into a coma. Yeah.
and the diabetic cake, he said, that's not cake. It tastes like rubber.
Rubber.
And it probably does.
Yeah.
Diabetic cake.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the negotiations, the bargaining, the repartee, the to and fro, until the list is just torn up. There you go. There's your answer. Nothing's gonna happen with that list. But yeah,
it was very fine. Everybody was extremely good and very funny. I enjoyed it greatly. One thing, when she says, "In sickness and in health, till death do us part," I was expecting him to say, I'm sick to death of this marriage.
he says he doesn't remember that part.
Yeah. That line someplace else.
He says, clearly she's making it all up.
As the play was progressing, as we did it, I had to remind myself to not repeat my incredulous look too many times, but it would have been so easy. Like, what?
Yeah. Thank
The idea of it being, as Tasman was telling us, Barefoot in the Park was an inspiration of this couple being the older version of Barefoot in the Park. And so Robert Redford always being, sort of like the beleaguered husband, whether by too much love or too much, just too much. And it seemed like even when I thought of, like eating the butter suggestively, and Mark kind of still having that sense of, I can't get a sentence out, he still seems under the spell of this woman, So I thought that was kind of funny that Rob.
I thought by not playing it incredulous, Mark, that made it funny. Yeah. All of us know it's ridiculous and crazy, and you're just taking it in stride and taking it seriously. That's what made it funny.
That's true.
It came off as, because you didn't, it came off as you've gone through this before. This is just the latest iteration, and it's hilarious.
Exactly. We've been married for 20 years, I guess. So
yeah.
Especially playing a British person being dry with it, the husband especially.
Yeah.
And Michelle, when you see this recording, when I get it finished, I want you to look at when you get to the lines about the pink dress, there's this look in your eyes that just kind of sells those lines. I don't know if you were consciously doing it or if it was just, part of that spontaneous acting that just comes through when you're saying those lines, but you should definitely pay attention to that section. It was very good.
Thank you. I was using my hypermobility of my face.
It worked. It was sensational. It worked.
It was fun. It was more than fun. It was a challenge, and it was also it was great. It was a great time to do that, and to make it fresh each way to keep going to do it.
Yeah. And it was just bottom line, it's just a shopping list.
Not just any shopping list.
Only 16 items. But yes, thank you so much. Really well done. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you, Tasman.
Thank you, Tasman.
Thank you both.
So our second one is a study in Sherlock. How did that work for you, John?
Well, I my stuff tends to be more visual than verbal, so my poor actors, were not given as much exercise as all your other wonderful pieces, but everyone was extremely good, and I'm more interested in what you guys have to say and whether you're interested in more.
I definitely agree with you. It was very. It was mostly in the narration, the very cinematic quality of what you would be doing, and it would definitely work better as a film, especially with a lot of jump cuts from one scene to another. I was at one point towards the end, I don't know if it was just me, but the whole screen went black and there was some dialogue by Paul Uhler where it was just a black screen. And I'm wondering, were they supposed to be on screen at that point, or did you have them go off screen?
No, you're having problems with your Zoom. That happened a lot during.
No, it was
others. Yeah,
it was off screen. It was off screen voice. It's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not big on doing fancy stuff. Let the script do the work. I'd just as soon have the actors in a gallery view there so I can see them at any time, rather than worrying about jumping back and forth. But it's all what you're used to.
But Paul, you actually cut your video off, right, and did the dialogue.
Yeah, those last lines of Watson are off screen.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to be sure.
I'm sorry. I just did what the script said. So.
Okay. All right.
And I'm sorry about that. For my last bit, I forgot that I had another scene and I was eating. And then it was like, oh my God, I had to find the spot. And then I panicked and I'm going, oh my God, what do I click? What do I click? What do I click? What do I click? And then I was just like, oh my Lord. Yeah. So I thought I only had the 2 scenes. And so I was sitting here just listening and eating my eggs. And then, so.
Yeah, that's why I encourage everyone, follow this, look at the script. Forget about the props. Go for the script because, it's a guide for you, but it all works fine. It's not a problem.
So, Mary, did you get the complete scene in when you came back?
Pretty much. I only had a couple of lines.
I was just wondering if maybe I could take that piece that you did and edit it and put it where it was supposed to be.
I think we jumped a bit because I was waiting.
Yeah, they jumped. They went ahead while I was panicking and trying to find my spot. And then I just kind of rushed in and just said, these visitors of yours. I really only had there might have been one line of mine that was missing, but I think I only had a couple of lines.
So was these visitors of yours supposed to come after Chuck, or was it supposed to come before Chuck?
No, I was the visitor she got sick of.
Okay.
I'm just
wondering, should I edit it?
I was trying to keep him from getting in, and then I came in and said, these visitors of yours, and he says, well, I was invited. I was told to come.
Okay.
And then she gets me to leave and says, you could just take a nice walk. Okay.
When she
we kind of jumped back and forth. We jumped a couple lines,
go
back to it.
Back to where her entrance was. But, it is what it is. And so there's no point in hiding, what happened. Keep it live. Because you're doing theater as opposed to film. So, in the film, we'd edit it and reshoot it. But as the reading, you're doing it live. So that's what people are actually tuning into your thing for.
But we do have the option of editing if we.
If you want to redo the last scene, we can. It's not a problem for me. If you want to do it on screen.
No, there's no, it's Steven's thing. So whatever he wants, it's not a big deal.
Will there be a second installment?
Well, this was the first of 6 features in like a BBC series. So, and since it's designed to be non-commercial, instead of act breaks, I created the conceit of chapters. So yes, there's 8 chapters and an epilogue to each of the 6 stories. And if you're interested, we've got scripts complete, but it's visually driven, and so I can understand where it might not work as well within this format.
Well, it's entirely up to you if you feel that this has been helpful at all for you, or if you think it may help you in the progress of where you want to go, then bring it in.
Oh, I'm fine with it. I just, just feel like I'm not giving the actors enough to do. but certainly the narrator got a lot of exercise.
Yeah.
I
And
have one.
deserves to
I
be on
have one
camera.
question. I do have a question. Do you think it would be more clear if you had two narrators, one to announce the scene changes, and the other narrator does all the descriptive text? Because I was doing the scene changes and the descriptive text, I thought maybe I don't know. How did it come off to the audience?
Well, it might be better, at least for this format, is that you incorporate the scene changes into the narration. In other words, you don't say cut to or change scene. Basically, it's just a narrator describing a new scene.
It's already set up that way, and all my scripts go through a table read with the New Playwrights Foundation. I encourage people when they read the things, like when it says interior, if you feel like it, say inside. Make it conversational. And the tough thing with for the narrator reading my stuff is I tend to, if it's an action sequence, break the sentence so that it ends before one sentence is complete and kind of overlaps into the next sentence. So the narrator has to figure out where to take a pause. Because
I've never understood, why do screenplays do that? I've seen that format in other screenplays. What is the reason for that?
The reason for what?
What he just said, that style of the cutting the sentences the way he did. I've seen that. That's a thing that's done in screenplays, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, I say, look, a screenplay is to a play what a poem is to a sentence. So we're not doing scene or the curtain goes up and down, or people enter and exit per se. So sometimes there's overlapping, and this style isn't always used in all of them. It's quite often used what's called stacking in an action script for direct-to-video, because you're doing a lot of fast cuts, and the narration should be like if you're talking to, say, you're describing the movie to a person who's blind sitting next to you.
I see.
You only have as much time as the action is happening on screen. So a love scene can be long and languorous, but an action scene, you don't have time for complete sentences.
Gotcha.
But people will disagree with me, so
I think it's also because we're not really using the term correctly when we assign somebody as narrator.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a narrator of the play. In other words, they're not another character that you're hearing over a scene or over some action. Basically, our narrators here are just to give us a little bit more description about what's going on so we know what the characters are doing.
Reading the stage directions, in other words, or the film directions.
Right.
Yeah. That's why, in fact, I listed her as action rather than narrator on the cast list. And technically, it's the camera, except there is no camera. And for me, the camera character the audience plays, because there is no audience. So you're basically giving the audience's point of view. But for somebody that over talks like I do, I prefer to have things that you see with less talk.
I've brought things in where I've had an action for the actors to do, and normally whoever's narrating would read that, but sometimes we can get the actors even on Zoom to do the action. If we can do that, then the narrator doesn't have to read that. It's just performed.
Yeah. Except then when they're doing that, their eyes aren't on the script, and then they wind up, oops, I missed a line, or they suddenly I don't worry about it, but I've been involved in readings where I'm saying, well, I've got the script in front of me. This isn't what the person wrote that you're saying, or they stop it. They just are now doing their action, and they don't realize they cut out of the sentence 2 words before it ended, And those two words can maybe change the whole meaning of the sentence.
Next
And,
practice.
yeah, but it's, it's different when you've rehearsed the thing. But if
Yeah.
you're doing a cold reading, you may want to keep your eyes on the teleprompter.
Yeah. Tasman, did you have something?
No, sorry, I was just going to say it would be interesting to see the second installment.
Huh?
Because now that John has prepped us and we expect a narrator or narrator / action person to give us the bare bones of what is going on, I think it would be interesting to see the second installment because now we know what to expect. The method is different. Yes, Zoom has limitations. We all know that. But I think it would be interesting to see. So if, John is willing or if John is, wants to give it another go, we can see what's on the other side of it.
Don't get me wrong. I don't have any complaints about anything that we did. And, it's not whether I'm interested in doing it, it's whether the actors or the readers are interested in going further. And, I would be interested to know if everything was clear enough for you. Were things too cluttered? It's different when you have a script in front of you and you hear the narration. Paul, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm in a group that does screenplay readings on Zoom, and they spend the person that organizes it. She usually assigns somebody to direct it. And their job is to actually adapt that screenplay script into a Zoom script. And there's some work involved, but boy, it sure makes it. And you have to really think in a Zoom way rather than a screenplay mentality. And they put in all the entrance and exits for the actors, so it makes it very clear to us what we have to do and what when we're on and when we're off.
How much time?
It's just a thought.
How much time do they have to prep for that?
Oh, we sight read it.
But
we don't rehearse at all. We sight read it.
But the director's doing a rewrite.
Well, no, they take the screenplay script and they just adapt it to Zoom. So like they'll delete, everything where it says camera pans here. That's all deleted. So we don't have to wade through any of that stuff that's not necessary for Zoom.
Yeah, in fact,
but I don't know if that would be I don't know if that would be of a benefit to the writer to experience something like that, to have it adapted to Zoom. I don't know how beneficial that would be.
Well, I'm just submitting it as a form of communication for us. To quote Charles Dance's character in Good Morning Babylon, artists communicate to each other through their art. So, but I specifically don't have camera pans and so on in my script.
Right. I was just trying to give an example.
As if you came up with them, knowing that I put in the guidelines for it. But it's like the artists nowadays are like children that they would, they will stop doing something that they wanted to do because the parents told them they have to do it. Like nobody wants to have the book they're looking forward to reading suddenly be assigned in school because now it's work. And so you have to be kind of judicious. But
for me, the only time I got a little confused was with the character that was introduced as Dipper.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a little lost until that character became the old prostitute, and then the character became the Sherlock person. And then I realized, oh, the Sherlock person was also Dipper.
Yeah. In fact, Dipper's, when you see it visually, it would be that Dipper's actually there not to pick pockets. He's there to try and find out who's an accomplice to Moran in the group before he starts making his move.
So why
which
does
is
he take Dr. Watson's watch?
because he hears the harumph and he sees him reading the editorial that Sherlock wrote. And, so there's those little things like that. And it's just implied, so you might not catch it when you're hearing rather than reading. But the petticoat that the hag is wearing is actually the colorful coat flipped inside out as a reversible. So Dipper's coat becomes Sheila's skirt.
But he
And we
doesn't.
see that.
He doesn't want the watch. He doesn't. He's because
He's trying to find out who the person is, and analyze it. So, but it's that idea that their connection is because they're basically commenting on the same thing, Sherlock's process. But there are it's like any series. You got a lot of secrets that are going to be unveiled later. So like Mrs. Hudson is actually not Mrs. Hudson.
okay. I just thought that maybe it was indicating that Sherlock thought there was a connection with Dr. Watson and Moran. And
Well, he has to check everybody, but of course, this first installment would be basically he's auditioning somebody to be an apprentice to take over when Sherlock's identity is no longer needed.
Okay.
So, but
the story continues.
You don't have to, you should be able to raise those questions and not necessarily have the answer yet. So the fact that you think about it is worthwhile.
Okay.
And I'm
So
sorry,
this-
I'm doing all the feedback. I'm not giving you time to do things.
So Mr. Rex McGregor moves on to Throw Me Out.
Yeah, I want to do the slots now after watching that.
Oh no. It's meant to be anti-gambling.
I know people who gamble and I'm suddenly worried about them, but what was really alarming is I've met 3 different people who gamble in order to pay their rent. And
Are they successful?
yes, but it causes so much strain. And I did meet a person. I don't think they play the slots because it's a loser's game, they say, and I did meet one of the I wasn't thinking about her during this play, but I'm going to bring her up in a way. Easily the most pompous and rude and conceited person I've ever met in my life, diving right in. We were talking and I said, "Oh, that's a beautiful bracelet," because I noticed jewelry. She immediately holds her hand up. "Oh, this was won this in a poker game." I'm thinking it was someone's stolen property, and because I didn't know. I only see it in movies, and no, it turns out she won a really fancy poker game. They gave it to her as a gift, and they also gave her money. She's going on about it, and she said it was a $250,000 buy-in, and I was like, "You and I are not going to hang out together. We're just not." The way that she was so smug and smiled, and I realized she was probably in the top 1% of gamblers and is probably in a lot of debt, but her personality was, we are not the same person. I'll put it that way. Anyway, but no, this was charming and a little silly, and I was wondering if this was for real or for fake. I liked it.
Deborah was very endearing, and I think Deborah, the fact that she acknowledged she had an addiction problem, I think that was great, but she was still in there. She knew, oh, I've got a problem, but I have to keep going, these and then she was just she kept going. But then she had her own way of manipulating. What was Megan's role again? Was she
Lane. Lane was the character.
Lane? Sorry, did you say Elaine or Lane?
Lane.
Lane, sorry, yes. And where she was trying to be calm, doing her duty, trying to reason with someone who is probably bordering on a bit of insanity there.
I think she was down to her elbows.
Most probably, but yes, it was lovely. It was delightful. I enjoyed it.
You're thinking of her playing slots, but maybe she was really playing poker, because the whole thing is she's bluffing somebody into letting her do that prank.
Poker face.
She could be
And
skilled in
so,
both, although it's rather unusual. It
well,
would
I
be
mean, this
fascinating to see
basically,
her at blackjack.
when you're bluffing your hand, you're basically turning the other player into your partner because they're making you win because you wouldn't be able to win with what you have. So she was the bet whore half of the group.
Very
And
I love the
so Rex, how many musicals have you written?
Oh, I have written a few, and I do include songs in some of my
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm
and
jealous.
parodies.
Yeah.
And Susan is particularly good, not only at song parody, but she writes her original material too, which she presents at another Zoom group that I belong to. So I was really thrilled to have her read this
Lovely
role.
voice.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I'm more of a singer-songwriter, and so I know Rex from another group where I do my songs, and I've enjoyed all of his plays. And he once asked me to do another one of his, but it was someone with a thick New Zealand accent, which I didn't feel I could. I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think I could give the role what it needed. So when this came up, I thought I'm going to give it a shot. This is my first time ever doing a reading on Zoom. I haven't done scripted material in a long time, so it was a fun challenge, and the technical stuff was like, how am I going to read this so it doesn't look like I'm reading? But, so I asked a few people how to set things up, and so it was,
A good playwright to start with.
And you
yes.
can't help but know Rex from other
Rex's
groups.
material, because I haven't seen him write anything bad yet. Everything he's done is wonderful. So I was really happy to be doing Rex's material. It was really fun.
So maybe we can get your
very
voice.
intelligent use of the camera. You use the camera. You used it as a partner and communicated very well visually and facially.
Oh, thank you.
That was very impressive.
So, Richard, are you a drummer? Richard Bell?
You're muted.
They're back there.
Yeah, every once in a while I can see the cymbal, so I'm thinking, you.
I got my guitar right here.
Yeah, we need to get a musical in here.
You have to have people playing music together in the same space because of the lag. It's like,
It's been a while too.
Yeah. And then you have to use a setting for music, otherwise it breaks up. It's called original sound. And it picks up the background, which you want to shut off when you're speaking, but when you're playing music, you want it to pick up the instruments or any other sounds. And if you don't use this original sound feature, it starts to break up, and so.
Well, we could record the instruments separately. You guys could send me the recordings and I could edit them to the soundtrack.
Oh, we'd have to do everything to a click track so we would sync up together. And then you'd have to be able to sync the track. You kind of need a recording studio for that.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. Bruce Kimmel had his monthly Kritzerland things online during the pandemic, and it makes it look seamless because everything is working in these music videos that they're basically show tunes, but it takes a lot of work to make it all come together, and it's all pre-recorded but made to look like it's live. So and everybody tried to imitate it, and they ran into those problems where nothing synced.
Yeah, I made a Zoom video of a song that I wrote during the pandemic, and I had everybody send me their tracks, and then I had a guy who runs a recording studio mix everything for me, because there's no way I could have done it. Yeah.
All right. So, next, Zev Johnston, your first story for us, right?
Yes. I believe that I've praised the two actors who read in the scene 3 times now in this meeting, so I promise I will hold off for about 2 seconds. If you ever need a self-esteem booster, please just remember me. If nothing else, I could figure out how to put it into a bottle and hand it to people, and then I wouldn't need a job. But both of them actually approached me wanting to rehearse separately, and so we did. And I kept saying, this is wonderful. And my emails to them of follow-ups were, what a great rehearsal. And they were like, yeah, you said that about 5 times. Not 5 times, but. And I was today, right now, figuring out different character motivations I hadn't picked up on as I was reading the stage directions, and the actors just sat with me through it. For what it's worth, I wrote this because I wanted to figure out whether I want to expand this play or not, and both Beverly and Richard indicated, yeah, I probably should, not because it's bad, but because there's so much that I had accidentally left out, and there's more to say. But at the same time, the original draft of this was so dark. Not that anybody got hurt. It was just like, oh, you think this is dark? Wait until you saw the entire thing. Also, you get to meet Malcolm. And then I put that away and just pulled out this one. So I go back and forth on it a lot, and that's why I showed up with something that was only 4 pages.
It didn't feel dark to me, though. It just felt like, a brother and sister discussing the death of a relative, and the fact that you were making that sacrifice to sit with her. It didn't seem dark.
Oh, it wasn't supposed to be. That's why I should have. The long version of the play, you got to. It was everybody screaming at each other, and it was, you should sit with her because blah blah blah. Well, I'm not going to because I have my reasons. And in real life, when people sit Chimera, it's a real life practice. You do it because if it's someone anonymous, you do it because the person is out of town, or they have dementia, or like they physically can't be there, or mentally really. So if you have an entire family screaming at each other, you're the one who's got training, you weirdo, you're the religious one, you need to do what our family can't do. Well, you're not religious, why do you care? And back and forth and back and forth. But I felt like, I could write that scene, I could provide that characterization, it would depend on the actor. But at the same time, also, if you've never met a Jewish person before and you have no idea this is a real thing, you could pick up some particular stereotypes. It's complicated, and I don't know if I have a deft enough touch to do it.
Well, when my father-in-law passed away, the mortuary provided a person to sit overnight for.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's his job. And it was part of the funeral expense to have him sit there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I planning on getting the actual training when I get out of the situation I'm currently in, and I've been warned people will try to pay you. Here's how to turn it down politely because this is not a job. And well, I don't want it to be a job. That'd be weird. Well, good, because you're not getting any money, that sort of thing.
And I guess it's supposed to be a mitzvah.
Yeah. Everything I put in there was supposed to be real, although Beverly and I were talking about it. Shomer is actually a gender neutral pronoun. The Shomerette was false information. The person who gave it to me was pulling my leg. The Shomer is a gender neutral pronoun, and if you want a Shomer to sit with you when you've died, you should be able to get one.
Usually a synagogue will have a committee.
Mhm.
You have mentioned the committee at the beginning of the script. You called it the Hever Kaddish
Burial Society.
Yeah. I was going to say, wanted to ask Bernie if he had any input on this discussion.
Guess not. Bernie?
Muted.
Oh, he's not
Yeah,
muted.
he's not muted, but he's not active either.
I don't.
Sometimes his
That better? I raised my volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very low. It's very low.
Raise your voice.
I thought the scene was very insightful. I thought it got to the point very well, and I thought both Richard and Beverly did a very good job in portraying their characters. But I was taken in by what the theme and the message was. I thought it was done very well. And I thought it was written very well too.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
thank
thought
you.
you might have some, maybe you and Zev might have some, you might be able to help Zev with the whole concept.
I'm not trying to put any pressure on you. It's obviously just something I'm interested in.
I didn't know if you knew much about the whole concept of Shomer. Have you ever done it, or do you know anybody who has?
Who are you referring to?
I'm talking to Bernie.
Okay.
I'm aware of the concept, but I don't really know anyone who's done it.
Okay.
But that's why I was able to relate to it, because I am familiar with it.
Yeah, I was sure you were.
So Zev, the piece that you presented today, is it like a middle piece and there's more in the beginning and more at the end, or is this the beginning of the piece?
This was originally part of a 30-page play before I shoved it under my bed and said I was never going to do it again. I got upset. It was towards the end when things are getting increasingly, there are no easy answers, but hey, at least, nobody gets hurt. It's like by the end, they walked into a room and they were already shouting at each other. It's basically the deterioration of the relationship between two siblings who don't want to stop talking to each other, but they're going to have to if you can't keep them apart and they're adults. It was very much, they had a relationship, and I didn't want to put this into the script because I felt like it needed to be a full length in order for me to say this. But previously, there are repeated mentions of the people in their family who are dead were the ones who prevented them from fighting, because when they got along, it was great, and it could be years and years at a time, and there would be a huge fight, and then they weren't getting along, and a family member would have to come in and get them back together. All the get back together people are now dead, and so it's two siblings who don't have someone to mediate, and the effects of that. And the Nora is totally confident in who she is as a religious person. She just doesn't want to feel like she's forcing Ash back into it because he had to leave. It's up to the actor to decide why that is.
Yeah, but for what I got today, it just seemed like Nora and Ash had a good relationship. It was
really?
Like,
I didn't do my job. I'm kidding.
I mean, they had some differences and some disagreements, but they seemed to accept each other's, where each other was. And the only time they really spoke negatively is when they were talking about the other relatives who weren't doing anything. But it seemed that their relationship was okay.
Okay, I did not expect that. I'm glad. That makes this play a lot less dark.
That might be a good hook for you for the climax of the piece, and therefore actually being the theme, that the people that think they're feuding really aren't feuders when they're left alone by themselves, because as you say, the other people have been mediating them. But the thing is, how often were they by themselves without these mediators? And maybe it's the mediators actually that are high pointing the problems. And if you mediator's not there anymore, you have to just drop your guard and recognize what you are and are not, and suddenly realize, oh, with my defenses down, there was more in common and less divisive. Mm-hmm. Or, when I was in grade school, I realized one of the reasons why there was a war between men and women was that one side was always asking for more than they wanted because they were afraid they wouldn't get what they wanted, and the other side would hold back more than they're willing to give because they were afraid that they'd be asked too much. And if they just lowered their defenses, they might have found a much more common bridge that what they each wanted to give and wanted to take were within the same boundaries.
That's like 95% of stand-up comedians, and they are going to come after you if you say that to them. So I fully support you, because so much of stand-up comedy is You can make a lot of assumptions by that person who walks on stage. I'll put it that way. That's not very nice.
But
Yeah,
to John's
the
point,
idea
that's
is that
definitely
all
how
our
we played it.
assumptions are the opposite of what we think they are. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Just then, to John's point, that's kind of how we try to play it, like a little guarded from each other, but we try to make that last line of like, you know, hey, I love you, is giving it a, hey, you know, we might fight, but I love you. But again, with a condensed version of the play, it's probably hard to flesh out that tension as much as you might in, you know, and then they were drinking and they got along, which for me, being not Jewish, must mean, you know, when Jewish people drink, they get along, because I'm from England. So when you don't get along and start drinking, normally a fight breaks out. So, you know, it's,
I've never heard that one before. I'm laughing because I don't know what to say to that.
oh, yeah, it's good. It was good for me because I got to learn a little bit more about Judaism and stuff. So that was cool. So it was, you know, good experience for me. And we avoided doing a New York accent I offered to try it, and we didn't want to turn it into a Seinfeld episode, so we left it
I
with
was
the British
very
accent.
against any East Coast accents in every single one of my plays. Do not do an East Coast accent. Just don't go there, please. Because
How about a
don't.
Canadian accent?
Right.
I'm Midwest.
Canada.
Or like I say, my American accent is Irish.
Okay.
I spent 20 years as a you know, a son to my parents trying to figure out how to spell use guys.
I deliberately didn't mention what branch of Judaism they were part of because I wanted it to be so open to everybody. And I didn't mention where it was set, especially because Seattle Judaism is a very different experience from Chicago Judaism in particular. That's the first city that popped into my head. Very, very different experiences. And I didn't want to restrict that. And I also didn't want to spend 10 minutes explaining about Seattle Jews because it's not the point of the play.
Yeah. And you don't actually want this to be about the traditions of Judaism per se.
Oh,
You
it's
want
in
to make
there
it-
and it's going to be in
I know
every
you-
single
I
scene. I'm not
understand that,
backing
but
down from that.
No, the idea is to be universal because everybody has these traditions of sort, you know. Think about the sin eater. You
The
hire
what?
somebody that comes to eat the banquet to basically take over the sins of the dead so that the person has a clean soul and goes to heaven. Now, somebody gets hired to do that. But then when the sin eater dies, they have a hard time. And the cynical
not
guy just
familiar
realizes
with that.
we're all poor and we're just looking for a place for a free meal. And that's what the sin eater's job is. So, for me, I look at it from this point of view. My brother and I are exactly alike, but mirror opposites. He would be violent on the inside and want to be very calm and, you know, left alone. And I was very jovial, at least younger, but always wanted to be that James Bond adventurer on the inside. So we were exactly the same, but flipped inside out. And if you don't recognize the fact that you have two sides, if you're just looking at each other from the outsides, it's friction. But you know, the last time I saw my brother before he died, he's one day less than 5 years older than I was, and you're technically, you know, you're now you're my brother's an only child. I explained to him, I always saw him as my father figure because I could see what my parents were raising and decide whether to be that or the exact opposite. But you know, your brother's thinking you're your brother, but you're thinking of him as more like your father. So it's a kind of friction that people will understand. That just subconsciously they don't know they're going through that. But if you remind them that this is a universal theme, that you're not arguing with the other person, you're really arguing with the person you are when you're with them, and you're
You do
blaming
bring
them
up
for
a
what
good
you are.
point. I mean, if Ash didn't get along with Nor, they wouldn't be in the same room. If Nor didn't feel comfortable around him, she wouldn't be offering him alcohol. He wouldn't have brought up Malcolm. So yeah, okay, they do actually get along. And I hadn't really tuned into that. I was way too focused on the let's make jokes about, you know.
Well, the question is,
Okay.
you know, we never know what people are like when we are not in the room with them. So we don't know what effect we're having on them. When we like someone, we're basically falling in love with our vision of them, which means we're falling in love with ourselves, which is the most difficult thing to do because we know what we're like when we're alone. but we like somebody or dislike them because of how we feel about ourselves when we're with them. And we just kind of associate it. If you realize that, then you don't, you're not putting that too much pressure on the other person. Relationships can last longer. And you realize, well, they were, reminding you of something good you have. That's something you always had, and you carried it with you. It's a lesson we need to learn, but it's hard to learn.
Okay.
So our next meeting is July 23rd.
Okay.
Right. So writers can start posting, and I have a script for Zeb. And I'm going to try and track down Henry to see if he'll come back.
Oh, I get to work with Henry again. Yay.
Yeah.
Well, I have 365 plays.
Yes.
I know
Oh,
someone else
Jim.
who's doing
One
the
of
play a day phenomenon. I'm not doing it. Although one of the works I'm most proud of, I wrote in a day or two. So, but I'm not a one play a day kind of
Oh,
person. I just
yeah.
happened to write that one in a day.
No, yeah, don't do it. I wouldn't. Somebody asked me, would you do it? Would you select another year and do the same again? I said, no, very much.
I once
It is
wrote
hard work.
I once wrote 2 plays in one night because I had just started with this group. I had submitted my first play. I got such good feedback from them that when I went home, I couldn't sleep. And I kept thinking of
Brilliant.
other stories. And I said, okay, I'm just going to write down some notes. I'll go to sleep and I'll work on it tomorrow. And I just stayed up the entire night and wrote two more plays because of that. But that's the only time I've written something that quickly.
Yeah, I find the best ones are the ones I write fastest. That may be because maybe I'm writing it faster because I'm already happier with it, but I actually feel that your mood changes day to day, hour to hour, and to maintain a consistency in what you're writing over a long period is much more difficult than knocking it out in a week, because you're basically the same attitude more or less for that whole piece. And there was, the second Sherlock script I'd written, I was in a funk, and I was putting off finishing it until the day before I actually had already scheduled a table read. So I had to write the last 32 pages overnight, and actually read extremely well, because you didn't have time to overthink them. You just let the characters run with it. And the fact that you've set up everything, you're just basically tying up all the ends, and you knew where you were going. It's just, it took longer to actually get the copies made, and after I was finished at 6 a.m. And yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the questions, if you're a writer, I don't know if anybody else has been posed this question. So how do you discipline yourself? What do you do? And you just think, well, you don't really follow a systematic routine. You may have a kind of routine, but you know what? When you get that idea, that germ of an idea, and you think, God, I'm going to write this down right this minute, put it together. And away it goes. Your imagination is in full gear, and you just think, oh my God, I've just created this piece without even blinking an eye. And then there are other days where you think, oh, I'll do it in a minute.
Yeah.
I'll do it in a minute.
Well, you've been preparing for 30 years to do that overnight writing, is what it comes down to. And I find I usually do a 10 to 20 hour writing day, and I can't do that anymore because my brain goes to sleep from sitting down that much. But it's just I'm saying one more page. I want to see what happens on the next page. One more page, and before I know it, I started at dawn, and it's now 2 a.m. So that's what keeps you going. And then when you hit a scene that's not working for you, you know that the reward is the scene on the other side. So if you're not able to get through the scene, it's because the scene on the other side isn't ready yet. You know, but it varies for everybody. I mean, I went to a panel of screenwriters yesterday, and they've been trained, and so they have a very regimented routine. They do 2.5 hours in the morning, have lunch, then they have 2 hours in the afternoon, have dinner. Then I can't stand to write with an interruption. Once I have food, the writing is done for the day. So. You know, I want to be in that world and let it run, but it's different for everybody.
Sure, absolutely.
And Stephen, you sat out the whole thing today. I mean, we were wondering what breakout room you would be in. No acting, no writing.
This is my second month of just sitting back.
Well, you did it very well.
Yes. and this was one of the smoothest ones we've had. There was very little issues with people not showing up or being bumped off or, you know, having to get back into a room or something like that. It went very smoothly today. So great. Yeah. And we even had a backup actor for Tasman.
Yeah, just in case. The thing is, with any session, if something happens and if that script isn't going to go ahead, I have a backup script. So a completely different script. So had we not done Down to My Elbow today, I would have said, let's do it for July anyway. But I would have brought in my standby script, which is called The Talk Show Host. I mean, when I wrote that, I thought, oh, this is really good fun because I'm making fun of a movie star. Anyway, long story short, we didn't use it. So again, it's back on standby. There we are. But it all worked out really well.
So you don't have to worry about submitting for next month because you already have it. By the way, Stephen.
No. I don't use that. Sorry. I just keep it as standby in case all else fails on the day. So if I use it, I use it. But otherwise, there's others to choose from anyway.
Right.
264 more, right?
And they're all gems.
Tasman, I have to ask you, since we always see you sitting on the floor,
Oh my goodness me.
there's that photograph of you with the two actors. How tall is that boy standing next to you?
Yes.
Sam. Oh yes, because yes, on Friday, one of my plays was performed in London, so I had to get the train, get over there, and that chap must be 6'3". I think he's definitely over 6 foot, but you know, I'm not that tall anyway. And someone said, "What? You don't even have high heel shoes?" And I was like, "Come on!" I had to stand on a table so that I could reach his shoulder and take a picture with the actors. He's such a tall fella. But yes, it worked out really, really well, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. They did a really good job of it, and so many people in the audience, they liked the twist at the end, and they were whispering to each other. And then before I left, spoke to the director and so on, and people were saying, "Oh, that piece, that was really good. I love the twist at the end." So a lot of people have been saying that, and let's see what happens. It's called Stop Drinking Man. I haven't introduced it to this group. Stop Drinking Man. It's quite a funny piece with
Okay.
good twist. Yeah. So I was really pleased when I got the email saying, "We like this. We're going to put this on. Are you going to come over?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. I need to make an effort again." They had two viewings of it, 2 screenings of it. So one was 3 p.m., one was late in the evening for those who go and watch after work. So I went during the day because I'm a wimp. I don't like late night traveling.
Oh, wait. It's 1 o'clock now, your time, isn't it?
What's that?
You're up late now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just public transport late
Okay.
night. So I'm a
Yeah,
bit of a wimp.
Okay.
Well, yeah, well, you know, the trains are supposed to stop at 11 p.m. and everyone's supposed to be home.
Yeah. No,
You
no.
don't
it's
want to be on the last train.
Just me. I just don't like it when it's dark and I'm on my own. It's just-
Okay.
it's me.
All righty.
But
And
yes,
I'm glad you hang out with us.
yeah.
And
thanks so
And
much.
Rex McGregor also.
Yes. And
Yes.
kudos to you, Stephen, on you learning all those lines in your own play and putting on that show. That was, I'm just jealous. I
had
couldn't
4
learn that many
days.
lines.
I had 4 days to learn those lines.
No, I couldn't. It might take me 4 months. I could maybe get it down in 4 months. But
And the other actors kept saying, well, you wrote it, you should know the lines. And I go, no, it doesn't work that way.
Imagine if you could, as you're writing it, you actually know, oh my God, that'll be phenomenal.
I heard Paul McCartney had to relearn some of his songs to go on tour.
I bet he did.
I like learning the other person's lines and just reacting to them. So if it was a monologue, you'd have to break it down so that what was being said that inspired me to have my next line, as it were. And
I memorized someone else's monologue. I was a semi-professional child actor from ages 12 to 15, and I stood in a freeze while she got her light special. Lights came up on her, she recited it, and they came up on me. We had some back and forth, and I recited my monologue. Forgot it as soon as the curtain closed on that show. It was a farewell tour. 5 years later, I actually re-entered the industry as an adult, just not in musical theater. And I realized I knew every single word of her monologue, but had totally forgotten mine. So it's absolutely a thing. You stand there in a perfect freeze, trying to pay attention, and you wind up, and I can still do it. After all this time, and what was my monologue about? Mine was about the civil rights movement and how great it was, and hers was this really tear-jerking moment about how much she missed her parents. It was sad, and here I go, and I'm making people cry, and it's like, it's not my monologue.
And I was so concerned that I was going to forget something and screw everybody up during the performance. Yeah. And it was actually one of the other actors forgets a line at the end, and I'm leaning in and saying the line to him. And eventually he says it, but then later he says, you should have just said your line next. So.
Yeah, Charles Lawton in his one-man show would talk about the concert theater version they did of Don Juan in Hell, which is actually how I would love to see all these things done, where they've memorized the play, but they're just there in formal attire and a podium with scripts pretending that they're reading it. And one time, Charles Boyer just suddenly lost his place. And afterwards, Lawton asked, oh, what happened? Why did you muff your line? And he says, well, I was saying my piece and having perfect time when suddenly I looked down at the script and I saw the words I was saying, and it just completely made me stop. Or, in Meet Me in St. Louis, when Margaret O'Brien, or is it in Canterville Ghost, where she's reading a book and she's too young to know how to read. So they asked how she did it. And she said, well, I just memorized the lines and then acted reading them. So,
There you go.
So I hope everybody had fun.
Yes, as
Thank
always.
I did.
Thank you for the character, John.
See you all in group.
Thank
you for the character.
Good job, everybody.
Thank you.
See you around. Good job,
Thank you for the
Thanks for
reminder.
having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
see you
And
in
you.
July.
Thank you,
Wait,
Beverly.
wrong one.